I'm Constance Blackburn, your host at Around Kitsap. Today, we're in the Olympic College campus in Poulsbo early on a Saturday morning. Some kids might still be in bed watching cartoons or playing video games. But here, we've got more than 50 kids and parents who are learning how to make their own. What is it? Welcome to West Sound CoderDojo. I'm here with Charles and Donia Keating, the co-founders of West Sound CoderDojo. Tell me a little bit about what CoderDojo is and how did it get started?
The first thing is that we were looking for an opportunity for our own child who's been coding since she's in first grade, and we found Seattle CoderDojo. So we started going over to Seattle on the ferry on Saturday mornings. They held them at Amazon. It was packed. They had hundreds of kids coming from all over the Seattle area to do this. And so the first thing we figured out when we went was, oh my God, we have to have this over here. You know, obviously we didn't want to commute all the time, but we knew that it was necessary for the community. So when I came back, I had some conversations with Seattle CoderDojo. They couldn't make us a chapter because they didn't have the bandwidth. So we started looking at some of the materials out there at CoderDojo.com, and we formed our own chapter.
That's amazing.
And it's the right opportunity at the right time because there's such a need for workforce. And it really begins at an early age. You have to get the kids interested in 5th and 6th grade before they decide what they are good and not good at. If you get them interested, it becomes a lifelong passion for them.
Definitely.
And then we're amazed always by what the kids are doing when we see them show up in the class.
Yeah.
Where did the program start originally and how long has it been in existence?
It started about a year ago. It was started by a 17-year-old kid out of Ireland. And now there are about 400 some odd clubs around the world that are CoderDojo, basically programming clubs. They're not formal like ours are. I mean, we're under a 501c3, but a lot of them are just a lot of community members that come together to make it happen.
Wow.
I think the latest number was like 700. I mean, they're cropping up very quickly.
Yes.
700 or 750. And I think it's because they have this model where it's like, it's an open format, a flipped classroom, and it's based upon mentorship. So you're not really teaching the kids are really teaching themselves, so you're just kind of aiding the process, which is a different model actually, and I think it's impacting education a lot too, because they're seeing that kids are coming in with experience already, and they can leverage that.
Absolutely. Explain to me a little bit about what that flipped classroom concept is.
Well, when you think about, say, a course, like right now we're doing something with Python on Coursera. And so what they do is they sign up for that. It's a longer course, for 5 or 6 weeks. They do it at home with their parents. If they have any questions, they come here, and the first choice is that you ask a kid that has experience, more experience than you, and you say, can you help me with this? And then they work peer-to-peer and resolve that. And if that child can't help them, then they ask a mentor. And we just kind of give them a few tips, but basically it's their critical thinking skills and their problem-solving skills, and they try to resolve that. So it's not the typical classroom where you've got somebody standing in the front that has a designated lesson for the day where everybody's doing the same thing. You could have 50 kids in a classroom with 50 different things going on their laptops, and that's just fantastic.
And sometimes you do lead with a course, like we did Flappy Bird, or we did Tinker, or and I remember seeing that is one of them where we were playing with and we're showing them how to code and doing debugging, and then they were very engaged. But you also realize that there are kids coming in at all different levels, and as a result, there's not going to be one thing that's going to appeal to all of them. It's going to be too high for some and too simplistic for others. So you have to have flexibility as well as sometimes showing them what to do.
That makes a lot of sense. Really, you're meeting the student where they're at.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about the need in the community that this class is filling.
Well, first off, there wasn't really anything like this before even our code started. A couple of years ago, we actually went over to the Washington Tech Cities Conference and met Hadi of Code.org. And they were talking about what they were going to do in a month's time, which was to launch the first hour of code. And we thought, oh, this is awesome. We really need to get this in, because nobody was addressing this urgent need for computer science education. Well, it was being addressed, but not at the scale that it needed to be done. And not at the early age, which is also very important as well. So we brought our code the first year over to Kitsap County, and we had 20 some odd schools and 5,000 students participate the first year. And then the second year, because of that experience, we had 2 entire districts sign up partnerships with Hour of Code. Bremerton and Bainbridge School District both signed up with ongoing partnerships with Hour of Code, and we tripled the number of schools that were participating in the second year. And now this will be our third year. We're hoping is going to be the biggest one yet.
Absolutely, that's amazing. And I love what you said about meeting them at an early age, catching them early on, piquing their interest, and really using their own momentum to keep them moving forward.
Studies have shown that in 5th or 6th grade is when kids, they're willing to try things, but they start deciding, I'm not good at math, I'm not good at something. So you need to catch them at that early stage to get them interested in the STEM careers, because if you don't, then it's harder to instill it later on. And when the kids have a passion, they're sponges. That's when they start learning on their own. You get some come in and say, I'm already doing my own Minecraft mods. I've been doing this for 3 years, and I'm looking at them like, yeah, rock star, right? Facebook is coming right around the corner.
Sure.
Yeah.
I understand you guys are also co-founders of the West Sound Technology Association. Tell me a little bit about that organization and how it ties in with this group today.
Okay.
West Sound Technology Professionals Association, we're co-founding members of that. That started in about 2000. Initially we did that because there was technology people wanted a place where they could go instead of just the regular chambers of commerce and whatnot. And so they wanted to have a place where they could do peer-to-peer best practice sharing, where they could also partner on larger deals together, and also so that they can make this area, the public and private sector stakeholders, more aware of the fact that we had some really high-level talent here, because there was a perception, and to some degree still there, that most of the talent is going to be in Seattle or someplace else. So that was kind of the core purpose. Over time, I mean, obviously we recognize that technology is ubiquitous, or should be. It's a part of everyday life. So we took the professionals out of there so that we weren't isolating anyone, and we were welcoming everyone to the technology conversation, so it became West Sound Technology Association. 15 years going strong.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, early on people were like, you got to get the kids engaged. You really do. I mean, so you had people that were in all ages of their career, some that had even retired from programming careers that were saying, we got to get the kids involved. And it's like, well, and here was the perfect opportunity right in front of us.
Absolutely.
So it really is the right opportunity at the right time.
So what I hear is a lot of coordination from a lot of different organizations. What other partnerships help make this happen?
Well, the biggest one obviously is where you're standing right now, Western Washington University Center on Olympic College, Poulsbo campus. Candy Merrill, whom I think you'll talk with today, was very instrumental in basically asking for forgiveness instead of permission, and moving forward and saying, we need to make this happen. And because, you know, you're dealing with educational institutions which tend to have a little bit of bureaucracy and move a little slower, and she was just like, you can't just have everything perfect before you can move forward. Sometimes you have to jump. And we are just eternally grateful to her and others at Olympic College, and also even Poulsbo Rotary. I mean, Bob Hawkinson was very instrumental in making the introduction so that we could have this place. And so now we're looking at expanding into Sakai Intermediate School on Bainbridge Island, and we're also talking with Western Washington University about actually expanding a West Sound CoderDojo into their Olympic Peninsula campuses.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then even in our summit, which we're going to have on the November 19th, we're going to talk about the whole arc. It starts with the early K-12 education, but it also goes into the higher education institutions with Olympic College and Western Washington University, and then into careers with companies like ATS, our leading companies, because we're kind of part of the Puget Sound market in terms of tech market, but we're also separated by that water. So we have to work a little bit more diligently to make sure we stay connected with that and bring more opportunities here in terms of the technology community, because I think that's where the future's going. That's where the jobs will be.
You asked a question earlier about what the wider implication is, and so the way I see it is that 21st century education, the model is really shifting. A lot of times we're thinking about what you learn in the classroom or whatever, and that's really changing. With Coursera, with EduX, with all of these programs that are out there, kids are going to have the opportunity to do things outside of the classroom and not be dependent upon what their school can and cannot provide before they can get that information or the education. And that is what this is about. I mean, whatever they learn in school, even if they have a curriculum, even if they do have classes, CoderDojo serve a different purpose in that they're interactive, they're dealing with other kids, there's no, you can only do this for a certain time and then you have to move on to, art. They can really sit here with their parents and problem solve together, and it's a really great environment to have, no matter what happens in the schools.
Besides, they get to hang out with other geeks like them. I mean, that is kind of the point, right? I mean, and the thing is, there is such a fundamental shift happening so quickly in the economy. Things like 3D printing, automation, robotics, These things are going to shift. It's a seismic shift in the way we're going to approach everything. And so we want to have these kids have the tools so that when they start dealing with these automated systems, which every one of them are probably going to be faced with, that they'll say, hey, I started with this when I was in 5th grade. And that's going to be like awesome. Now, of course, if you're coming into it as a high schooler, we obviously welcome that too. We are welcome at all ages. And the cool thing is too, this is about having the students and their parents, and sometimes their grandparents, and they're learning at the same time. And you know, seeing the light bulb go on and say, you know what, I thought I could never do this, and you know what, this isn't so hard. This is actually easy.
I agree. That's the first thing I noticed about class today is that the adults stuck around. They want to learn too. They're listening just as keenly as the kids, and they're interested. They're doing something not only with their kids, but for themselves. I think that's a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
So if I'm a parent at home or I'm a kid at home and I just got super excited to join CoderDojo, how do I get involved?
West Sound CoderDojo.com. We always update it. We always put all of the classes that are there, when they're going to be available for ticketing, any other news that you want to be aware of. So that's the first place to go. And then the Eventbrite registration is very self-directed and very self-managed, and it's a tool that's recommended by CoderDojo.com internationally. So those two places, you know, if you just go to WestSoundCoderDojo.com, you'll always be led down the path to registration.
And we always welcome more people to get engaged and volunteers, because it really is truly a community-led volunteer effort.
Yes.
And people say, well, I'm not a programmer, how can I help? You absolutely can help. A lot of times you can even help the students, because it's more about problem solving at the early ages than it is deep programming. And by the time they're programming, they're on their own. You're helping them with something else, where it's just you being in the room with them and feeling that this is a safe space to learn.
Sure. Well, Charles and Donia, I have to say on behalf of the Kitsap community, thanks for bringing this to us. We appreciate it a lot. I'm excited to get to know some other folks in your program. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm here with Nathan Evans. He's one of the mentors here at CoderDojo. Nathan, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Nathan, explain to me a little bit about how the CoderDojo lesson plan and classroom style works.
Well, it's really intentionally very free form. It's a wide range, 8 to 18, so we don't want to be very prescriptive about what the kids do each time. What we want to do is give them a sandbox where it's safe to come in and know that they can work on something, they can experiment, and they can get help.
So how did you get involved in this?
Actually, Donia and Charles reached out to me. I had done the Hour of Code with Central Kitsap last year and had a lot of fun. Spent about half a day at the high school doing hour-long sessions with the kids and just showing them some of these very basic tools. And Charles and Donia, they started off the CoderDojo about a year ago, and they reached out to our company. We've had a long-standing relationship with them, and said, hey, we're looking for mentors. And I said, I've done this, and it was fun, so I'd like to do that again.
It was fun. That seems to be kind of a theme with the program here.
Yeah.
Explain to me how that works.
Well, there's so much power in what you can do with a computer, and I think that's very abstract to a lot of people in their day-to-day lives. You know, you don't realize just how much computers and software run the world, and so when you get a kid in here and you show them how they can make that thing do whatever they want, and they can build something, they can be creative, it's just, I mean, it's indescribable, right? It's like, oh my gosh, this child has just learned an amazing new skill that's going to be very fun for them, even if they don't go into it for work, even if it's just a hobby. You know, it's a lot of fun.
And really empowering for the kids,
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So tell me what they're doing at their desks right now. What are they working on?
A wide variety. We've got some kids who haven't done this at all, and so they're learning the very, very basics of how to construct a program from small blocks. So all software is made up of blocks that you link together into something that executes, right? It makes something happen. And they're learning the very, very basics of that. There are other kids who are building games. They've done this a few times, and these tools are really well done so that kids can build games. Some of them are building Flappy Bird, that game that was really popular about a year ago. They're actually building it from day one in the web browser. And some of them are building even much more advanced games than that. Some of them are even they're making movies. These tools let them make animations where they can move the characters around, they can add audio, they can add some music and things like that. So
That's so fun.
Yeah.
And really neat that they're all working on the same thing, on an overarching goal, but individually, that's at so many different levels of learning and projects. It's really amazing how you're meeting all the kids where they're at.
Well, the interest is varied, so that's what I love about the free-form nature of it. Is you're not asking everybody to learn one specific thing. They're picking something that looks fun for them, and then just getting help along the way.
Absolutely. So what brings you back here? Tell me what it is that is fulfilling about this for Nathan.
First is that bit I mentioned of helping new people discover how fun that can be to control a computer and to do that, to have that power, that creativity available to you. The other thing, honestly, it's really important that kids learn to code because we need lots and lots of computer scientists. The number of graduates in computer science is nowhere near keeping up with the growth and demand. So this is a really, really lucrative job. Median computer science incomes are around $90,000 a year. And so we want these kids to be the next generation of graduates who come in and do these jobs.
So Nathan, if parents and kids want to get involved, what kind of things do they have to come ready to class with? How do they get prepared?
Well, the first thing, as I think was mentioned before, they really do need to register because there are insurance reasons and things like that. But really, all they need is a laptop. They just need to bring a computer. We don't have extras, but if the laptop can run a browser, it can connect to the internet. We've got the internet here, and that's really it. Most of these tools are internet-based.
So the kids come here to class just for a couple hours. What are they doing when they go home from here?
Well, they can continue what they're building. One of our hopes is that they're building, that they have ambitions to build bigger things than they have time for 2 hours. And a lot of the tools they're using, you can save your progress and then resume. So what I'd love to see is when they come back a week later or 2 weeks later and they've made some progress, or maybe they get stuck at home and they want to get over the next hurdle. So really they can take any project that they're working on home and continue it.
Okay. And so then when they're working at home, they get stuck, like you said, they come back to class, and it sounds like we are encouraging them to talk to their peers, but yet there are experts here that they can ask the questions to as well. So really a multitude of resources.
Yeah, and there's also a Facebook group they can join and they can ask questions there.
Oh,
and
wow.
the mentors are on that Facebook group, so we can help them out.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
I'm here now with Candy Merrill. She's the director of Western Washington University on the Peninsulas. Candy, how did Western Washington University get involved with CoderDojo?
Western Washington University is always very interested in and involved in the community that it lives and works in. And we know that getting kids involved with learning and getting them to feel passionate about learning early on is really key, especially in the STEM areas. So we like to see kids learning in a way that's fun for them, that really gets them hooked, and that's going to ensure that they'll stay involved in education and allow that to inform their decision and hopefully get them into college and through college successfully and into the job market someday.
So you've touched on it just a little bit, but why would a university be interested in hosting a program that reaches kids that aren't even college age yet?
Because we're a part of the community and we care about kids in our community, basically. And because we hope that someday those kids will come back and visit us when they're old enough to enroll in a college program.
Sure, you're starting that fire young, and hopefully it keeps on burning.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about how programs like CoderDojo can tie into extended learning, possibly with Western Washington. What other programs are available?
Well, just now we're preparing to launch a cybersecurity degree program that will be a 4-year bachelor's degree. And that will start next fall, the fall of 2016. So we think there is probably a limited immediate turnaround with these kids. Obviously it will be years before they're ready to enter college, and hopefully by that time we'll have a lot of options for them. But here on the peninsulas just now we're kind of gearing up and preparing for the cybersecurity program, and want young people to become interested in that.
It makes a lot of sense. Definitely going to be a need for our nation going forward.
Certainly. I think almost any employer that maintains electronic records of any sort is going to be needing to have someone on staff who can see to their cybersecurity needs.
Candy, thanks so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Well, that wraps up today's show. I want to thank everybody at West Sound CoderDojo for inviting us in and giving us a look at their program and how important it is for our community. If you'd like to get involved, you can visit their website at westsoundcoderdojo.com. Huge thank you to the team that puts on the real show back here, to Western Washington University of the Peninsulas, and to Olympic College of Poulsbo for hosting us today. I'm Constance Blackburn, and I hope to see you on our next episode of Around Kitsap.